So, when most people think of the bards in Bardcraft, they're generally known as performing musicians and artists. This was prestigious because the training they went through, later they were equated with Renaissance men, but they were schooled in higher learning than the average person. Mainly the Bardic level of Druidry was a form of liberal arts curriculum that would very much compare to like a bachelor-type degree in modern thought. Bards were instructed primarily in a mentor-student or teacher-apprentice form. During their apprenticeship, they would learn about the native Celtic legacies and histories, as well as education in the preliminaries of natural magic, poetic thought, use of music, and any personal form of deliberate expression from within was emphasized. The element of air has always seemed to be associated with the bards, and they wore robes of sky blue color, ceremonial, which is shocking to those who see a mental picture of exclusively white-clad folk in relation to the Druids. But it is generally believed that since the Bardic magicians were probably the larger portion of the order and probably the most prominent, blue robes have come to commonly be associated with wizards. And I'm sure some of the generalization can also be thought of the result of those familiar with Disney's rendition of T.H. White's Sword in the Stone, which is really from Once a Future King. Bards are generally concerned with communication, which is also an attribute of their element, and they were also seen as occasionally flighty new initiates. Generally, some people remain bards for longer periods than others, and some simply remain bards. They're generally divided into three classes: that of the Furloi, Seneches, and the Verdanu. And the Furloi, they were like metaphysical musicians. And then the Seneches were more like historical musicians. And then the Verdanu, well, they were like the wandering bards that would report to royalty and the council, and possibly what we would more typically consider the bards of that time period, sharing news and appearing in royal courts and whatnot. So, the other interesting thing about the Verdanu is they transported the news through Celtia, and then all kings, all royalty in the Celtic lands were actually trained as bards to some extent. And then many virtuoso bards later became famous as a result of their crafts. These talented folk learned methods of using music and language to seemingly almost hypnotize or fascinate their audiences. And bards realized the public performance is a matter of energetic play, and the way in which the crowd is worked and the group energy consciousness then is projected into it. Once the nature of the crowd can be ascertained, it merely becomes a matter of drawing them out through their intellect and, most importantly, through emotion. When bards performed, they could display to the audience just how empty the audience could really be. The bards were able to reach inside a person's spirit or psyche and find the secret crevices, the inner aspects that had been neglected. These surfaces or areas can be stimulated through divinely inspired bardic works. At least that was the intent. Bardcraft involves elementalism to the extent of understanding the natural forces such as earth, air, fire, water, akasha, what have you, using some critical thinking The bards assigned each of the sacred instruments to the elemental currents. Although the bards were trained in various forms of musical expression, it is generally believed that they chose a particular form to become proficient in, and sometimes that instrument's elemental qualities could correlate with the needs of the student. Like, like earth. Earth is definitely a drumming tone. All drums, air, wind instruments, flutes, pipes, fire, trumpets, horns, brass instruments, water, the harp, and stringed instruments are often equated with water. There's really not a need to overanalyze this. It's, if you look at the nature of the element and type of instrument that's associated with it, there's definitely some common sense associations that should be fairly easy to see. Each of the instrument types correlates to a personality of the element involved. If this seems difficult to see now, it would become much more clear when we examine elementalism more so, or if you look at some of the more elementally aligned lessons from Be a Wizard and whatnot. As musicians and poets, the bards would often gather among themselves in remote locations or during festival celebrations to share their art. And some of these lasted a day or less, and they were called the gorsets, or gorsed, and were often conducted in stone circles. And then there were larger festival observances known as the Estenfads, and these have actually never ceased to be conducted in the British Isles, Wales, and where the Bardis and whatnot comes from still observes these. The psychology of music is defined as understanding the effects of particular notes and qualities of sound on the mind. Each of the 7 keys found in the treble clef have come to attain bardic associations in relation to the 7 bodies, celestial bodies, the visible ones known to the ancient world, as well as the spectrum of 7 visible colors. And so we can pull up. Alright. So we have Jupiter, indigo, Earth on that spectrum, Saturn, like midnight blue, Earth, Mars, red, fire, Mercury, orange, fire, air, Sun, yellow, air, Venus, green, water, Moon, blue, water. This is just one possible schema of, because this was one rendition. You could mess with Sun as far as fire, and you could find, various ways of doing this. That's the beauty of making magic a personal system, is being able to adopt it to your personal beliefs and identifications with different things. Okay, so that's a good introduction to the concept of Bardcraft.